Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Wedding Ceremony Podcast. We talk about anything and everything that has to do with wedding ceremonies. My name is Clint and with me is a gentleman who wrote the book, teaches the people, and is constantly finding a way to make us all really happy. The one and only JP Reynolds.
Oh, Clint, what a lovely introduction. Thank you.
It made me happy to say it, so I proved my point. If you're joining us for the first time, you should know that the reason the Wedding Ceremony Podcast exists is because JP and I are both wedding officiants. We've been doing it for quite a while. And if you're in the wedding industry, you know that every single wedding ceremony has its own unique personality and idiosyncrasies. And that is why we have never run out of things to talk about, even episode number 362. When I said that JP wrote the book, that's a fact. He has written books on how to officiate non-denominational wedding ceremonies, how to prepare for ceremonies. He's done the whole thing. And his books are in the Amazon store and in the Kindle store in Amazon. Plus, he is a communications expert. Thebusinessofconfidence.com is that website. His wedding website is jprweddings.com. Mine is just my name, Clint Huff, CLINTHUFFT.com for all of the things that I do. If you have been following this podcast for a while, you know that the last couple of episodes, JP has teased a story. Well, JP, that day has finally arrived. Please begin.
Thank you, Clint. You know, in your introduction, you said something along the lines of that we've been doing this for a long time.
Quite a while.
Quite a while. Yes. Nice phrase. Quite a while. It really is quite a while. And I oftentimes forget just how quite a while it's been. At the end of June, one night I had a phone call and there was no ID. I was in the middle of watching TV and I get so much spam on my phone now. It's like, whatever. And then minute and a half later, phone pings indicating that whoever had called me left a message. It turned out the call was from one of my all-time favorite grooms. I will go public and say, obviously, there are some people you have that little extra something with, that you connect with. For whatever reason, they stand out more quickly in your memory of weddings. And this is true with Don and his, I'm happy to say, still wife, Annie. What makes this so stunning is that I officiated their wedding. I can't believe I'm going to go public with this. I officiated their wedding 28 years ago.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Okay. And I have not heard from them in 28 years. When I say I've not heard that, I'm not on Facebook, Instagram. And their wedding was special because they got married in a little town outside Mexico City.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And Don is Philadelphia Jewish and Annie Mexican American, but she wanted to get married in her grandparents' town. And they asked if I would go. And it's like, sure. Because, in those days, we were saying sure to anything and anybody. Now it's like, well, let me see what the flight schedule is. Okay. Well, where are you going to be putting me up? But it's like, hey, gang, let's have a wedding. People were coming from Philadelphia, from the East Coast, from California, and we had a chuppah, and underneath the chuppah, we had Our Lady of Guadalupe and a statue of Our Lady of Guadalupe, and we had coins, and we had the lasso, and we had smashing of the glass, and it was truly, God forbid I should ever get Alzheimer's. I think even with Alzheimer's, I would still remember this wedding. And I was so tickled and delighted to hear from Don. And the reason why he was calling is because the ring bearer from his wedding, who at that time was 7 years old, is getting married next month and needs an officiant. They're getting married here in California. 28 years later, he calls and asks if I'm available to do the ring bearer's wedding.
So good. That's so good.
It doesn't get any sweeter, but it is such a vivid, beautiful reminder. The power of a ceremony, what we create. People are not going to remember what we said. Don and his wife do not remember the script. Okay, they don't have a copy of the script. I memorized my script, so I have no copy of it. 28 years later, what they still remember is the joy, the wackadoo joy of that ceremony. And he said, I didn't, to be honest, I didn't know if you were alive. I didn't know if you're still doing it. I didn't know, but he said, I thought, I'm going to hunt this man down. That is really what every officiant should want, is to have a couple for all the right reasons, hunt them down a quarter of a century later.
That is a great story. I can very honestly say that that has never happened to me.
Well,
And
it never happened to me until like a month ago. So, and by the way, he's 35. I've already Zoomed with them, and just a very sweet couple. I mean, it was a little odd to be Zooming with this man, and like, it's like, wow, you look a little different from when I last saw you.
oh yeah.
He just remembers, like, the food and the music and the whatever. It's not like he remembers, oh, I cried at the ceremony. JP was so beautiful. I said, someday that man's going to do my wedding. Didn't happen. It's very low key. They're getting married on a Wednesday, the most intimate and close of family, few friends. It will be a delight to be reunited with Don and Annie.
28 years later. And you haven't had any interaction with them in the interim. And so
No.
you really are going to see,
They have two children.
you're going to see basically new people. 28 years, trust me, you and I both know that we don't look the same.
Bobby, you look the same as when I first met you. But we're not going down that road, okay? This is a highly sensitive topic for me. But no, the last time I saw Don and Annie, it was just Don and Annie, and now it's Don and Annie, and they've got two kids in their 20s.
I was going to say those kids must be grown up as well.
Oh, I mean, I might as well give them, a discount coupon book for their wedding.
By the way, I would purchase the JP discount wedding book. I would love for that to hit the market because that would be something.
And I don't even remember. I mean, back then, I don't even remember how they would have found me, because it was not through an event planner.
That is a
And
great question.
it truly was an unforgettable wedding experience. Because, I mean, being from New York, Philadelphia, my people, that East Coast sense of humor, I just remember piling into the buses to take us to the villa, the wedding banquet, the feast, the food, the smells of flowers and nature. It was fabulous. And it was all very simple. The emphasis was on family. But God loved them. Oh, I mean, 28 years ago, that was big, especially a Mexican Catholic woman marrying a Jewish guy from the East Coast. That was not happening every weekend. And so they had to deal with families. For him to say to his family, so we're thinking you could come from Philadelphia to a remote village outside of Mexico City that you probably won't even be able to find on a map. And remember, 28 years ago, there was no Google.
Oh, that's right.
There's no good. 28 years ago, nobody was going to their phone to find out where the wedding was going to be. It was like a covert op. You're going to come to this airport. You're going to meet at this sign, and someone is going to put you into a van and take you to where we're going to get married.
And put a hood over your head. Don't worry, it's okay.
Right? I mean, it was so much more, let me just say, so much more of a pain to go to a destination wedding 28 years ago than it is today.
Plus, for you, the whole idea of I'm going to do, because I'm guessing that you didn't have that many non-denominational ceremonies under your belt. I mean, we've been doing this a long time, but 20 years is a long time ago. This is my 30th year. So everything is really kind of locked in. It's, oh my gosh, yeah, I did start 30 years ago. And I remember the first like 2 years, I only did a handful. And so for you at the beginning of your career to get flown like a celebrity, to get flown and experience this whole thing, of course, that part is probably going to be fresh in your mind for the rest of your life. Right. Because anytime that I've had to travel to go do a wedding ceremony, obviously, because of the uniqueness of it, it sticks into my memory. I'll be honest with you, I don't remember specific things about the wedding ceremony necessarily, but I remember the experience. I mean, is that fair to say?
Well, and that is really why I'm sharing all of this, is that what we are doing is creating memories. And I always say that 5 years after their wedding, no one is going to remember what I said. But 5 years later, people will look back and either smile and say, oh, you had a lovely ceremony. You had a lovely wedding. Or they'll say, oh my God, where did you find that person? Like, it is about memory. And it was lovely because there was no awkwardness in my conversation with Don. It was like we had spoken literally last week.
Oh, I love that. That's so
And
good.
there was just picked up right off. Well, again, because of our East Coast sensibilities, we clicked. He and Annie, we spent a lot of time crafting the ceremony because there were so many on both sides sensitivities and sensibilities that needed to be honored. Well, you see, I'm just sitting here smiling, and 28 years later, they were smiling, and he said to, and the ring bearer, the young man who's getting married now, is something of a nephew to Annie.
It reminds me of the Maya Angelou quote. They won't remember what they saw or what you said, but they will remember how you made them feel. And
Right.
you and I have talked about this and how the performance of it as an officiant that we perform, if we think of it as a performance, then there can be a disconnect to what we're really trying to do, which is exactly what you said, which I actually have on my website, which is together we create brilliant memories. So how they made you feel translates into what do we remember about how we felt. I just can't emphasize enough. In my opinion, that is job one.
Yeah, because that's the power of ceremony. That's the power of ritual when it is done well. Ceremony, ritual is a very delicate creature, and it's very easy to abuse it and to misuse it and to misdirect the energy of it. But when it's done well, it creates magic. And
Absolutely.
and people will not forget it.
You and I have talked at length about the fact that we go about it from different angles and different processes in order to create a wedding ceremony or experience a wedding ceremony, that sort of thing. But the end goal is 100% aligned. And it's exactly what we're talking about. I was talking to somebody about the World Cup pregame concert show and the halftime. They were talking about the performances and that sort of thing. I said, no, no, no. Think of the logistics. Think of everything they had to do in order to make that happen with the field and all of the moving parts and the people. And they had a real strict timeline in order to make it all happen. Believe it or not, on obviously a very much smaller scale, I think of it exactly the same way. I think of what could get in the way of happy memories, of a positive experience. What could get in the way? And that's where all the logistics and all that kind of stuff come into play. So I realized that when we are in the thick of the ceremony, we're in the middle of it, and it's our ball game, and we're guiding the couple and everybody who's there to bear witness, as you say. I take it as part of my job to broaden my sight and the spectrum of what I'm paying attention to make sure that nothing slips through the cracks, that everything's where it's supposed to be, and everyone knows exactly what's going to happen and when they're supposed to participate, if so that the couple has brilliant memories. I have a mantra, which I believe 100%. It's the things that go wrong you remember. And so our goal is exactly the opposite of that, which is why paying attention to the details is so critical.
I agree with you. However, you can have a flawlessly executed ceremony that nobody is going to remember 28 years later or care to call an officiant 28 years later. All of that is a very important element. But then there is as the French would say, je ne sais quoi, that element that's you can't manufacture. And it's about the magic. And it really is about the officiant, first of all, having a relationship with the couple. And I always say, if you want me to be an old drinking buddy, I'm happy to meet with you every Friday night for the next 6 months. But there needs to be some kind of a connection so that the guests understand that I am not the valet. And part of all of this magic is understanding that I'm not simply a vendor, that I'm here because the couple connected with me and I connected with them. And there is a relationship, and that is the intangible. And sometimes it's a very cordial, fleeting, and then other times there it is like with Don and Annie, maybe another 28 years before we see each other, but we know we can always call.
A lot of that depends on the personalities of the individuals involved. But I will
Yeah.
say this, the connection, and I want to make sure that nobody misconstrues what this is. The connection can develop over the interactions as you're leading up to the wedding day, or it can actually happen on the wedding day when you go visit the couple privately with their wedding party or whatever, or the parents, where you make an honest, and I think the key ingredient that you and I both bring, and I hope this isn't construed as bragging or anything, but, and I have a story that kind of supports this, is the heart that we bring and how much we really care about these two people. I mean, we may not know them that well, but we care so much about what they've decided to do and what can we do in order to make this the best it can possibly be for these two people. And it's that heart that is the key ingredient, no matter what our skill set is in terms of elocution or writing or whatever the case may be. And to illustrate this, I was speaking to a room full of officiants. When we opened it up for questions and answers, somebody said, how do you get celebrity couples? And I said, well, you have to earn the trust of the people they trust. But then that same person came up to me privately afterwards and said that she ran a business in a town in Northern California, and she was been doing ceremonies for a while. She wanted to have bilingual ceremonies, so she found a young woman who was bilingual in Spanish. And she said, it's really simple. I just give her the script. All she has to do is read the script, then she gets paid. I said, I hear what you're saying, and I understand that you're running a business and you want to expand your business. The thing that concerns me, though, where's the heart? Just reading a script in front of two people that are getting married, but where's the heart? I said, that's the key ingredient. I would just take a look at that.
Okay, so after she slapped you in the face, what did she say?
She said, I'll hunt you down. I know where you live.
You weren't hard?
No.
No, but I am curious, what was her reaction?
Well, I think she was just listening to me, but obviously I took it in a direction she wasn't expecting. She was thinking of pure business, and I was thinking of the human experience. She was polite. She wasn't disrespectful. She just nodded her head and said, oh, thank you very much. Who knows what happened after that? I actually had somebody a long time ago. She knew a different officiant. She knew another officiant because through different networking and that kind of stuff, she and I got to know each other. And she was also a part-time officiant. But she said to me, when and if I get married, I would love for you to be the officiant. And I said, that's a big honor, considering that you're also an officiant and, you know, everything that you've said and done over the course of your career. But I'm just curious, you already have a relationship with this person who's an officiant. And she said, you're married, and it's obvious that you love and you respect the institution of marriage, everything that goes into it. And it just seems like you would bring a different energy as opposed to somebody who just wanted to perform. That meant the world to me, because that's exactly right. To me, that's job one, is to bring your heart and do everything you can to make sure these two people are having the experience that they hope for.
Amen.
That's the end of my story. All right, JP, tell everybody how they can get in touch with you.
My website, jprweddings.com. And
Excellent.
If Dawn could find me after 28 years, there's no excuse for our listeners not to find me.
Also, remember that he is a communications expert for JP. That website is thebusinessofconfidence.com. Remember that his books are in the Amazon store and in the Kindle store in Amazon. And once again, his wedding website is jprweddings.com. Mine is Clint Huft. It's my name, ClintHuft.com, for all of the things that I do. That's it for this episode of the Wedding Ceremony Podcast. This is Clint, and on behalf of JP, we will see you next time.